Welcome, everyone. Today we are here with Susan Petrone, author of The Super Ladies, Throw Like a Woman, A Body at Rest, and her latest novel, The Heebie-Jeebie Girl. Susan will be discussing The Heebie-Jeebie Girls with us today. The book is set in 1977, Youngstown, Ohio, during the same year as the closing of the city's largest steel mill and one of the worst blizzards in decades. In the novel, an 8-year-old girl named Hope has an eerie ability to choose the winning lottery numbers, which allows her family some financial relief during difficult times. When a robbery hurts Grandma, Hope sets out to find the perpetrator. Susan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I am a Cleveland-based writer. You've mentioned my previously published works. Also published short fiction and nonfiction in such diverse venues as ESPN.com and Belt Magazine, Glen Train Stories, and others. And I seem to write a lot about Northeast Ohio. And I guess now that I have a few books out, I seem to end up writing about women and girls doing unusual things.
Very good. All right. What inspired you to write this story set in Youngstown?
Well, it is based on some real family history. My whole family is from Youngstown. Both of my parents grew up there, and 4 of my 5 siblings were born in Youngstown. One brother and I were the only ones who were born in Cleveland, actually. So I spent a lot of time in that city growing up. So it was kind of the second home. And the crux of the story really comes from family history. I did have a cousin who went through a period of time where she correctly picked the daily lottery numbers. She cannot move things without touching them, which, you know, at least I don't think she can. She's never told me. I often like to throw magical realism into my books. My grandmother really was scammed by 2 guys who came to her house and pretended to be from the water department and robbed her of everything, not just her lottery winnings, but like everything. She was part of that generation that didn't keep money in the bank as much as she, under the mattress. In her case, I think it was like empty cigar box hidden like under the bed or something. So that story always fascinated me. And there's something about Youngstown that kind of gets into your blood, and it's a city that people don't often write about, and I wanted to.
Very good. All right. You said that you mentioned the fictional story was based on some real events that happened in your family. Have you always known that those stories of your childhood would make good, for interesting fiction?
I suspected. I mean, the whole story of, who are these people? Who are these guys that robbed my grandmother? Fortunately, she was unharmed, but it could have gone really bad. And that always fascinated me, because it was really brazen. I mean, they came to the house pretending to be from the water department and saying that they were there to give her a refund. And it was, scammed her. They saw exactly where she kept her money, and they robbed her. And boy, that's brazen. Who does that? And I think it was that who does that made me think, oh, there could be a novel in here somewhere. So I always suspected. People have asked me if I'm going to write either a sequel or write more about Youngstown. I don't know. I mean, I guess there are more family stories. I don't want to keep, going back to the same well over and over. But that was one of those stories that I think once I started exploring all the dramatic possibilities in it, that it's like, oh, wait, there is something here, more than just grandma got robbed. So didn't always know it. I don't think I really knew it till I got a good draft. I said, oh, wait, this could work.
All right, very good. Can you tell us a little bit about Youngstown as a voice in this novel? You can maybe tell us how you envision Youngstown's personality. I know at a previous interview I saw that you mentioned that Youngstown is definitely a woman.
Yes, I feel like Youngstown would be like the crazy old lady sitting next to you at the bar, like catering free drinks and smoking everybody else's cigarettes all night and telling you really great stories. I mean, the book was I'd always envisioned the book as being told by these three very distinctive voices. And and originally it was divided into three sections, and then bringing things together, I kind of thought, oh, I thought about having the voice of Youngstown be like the narrative voice for a fourth section. And I wrote that, and it stank. Like it just felt like an add-on. And I didn't want to rewrite the entire book, like in Youngstown's voice, because I really liked the first person voices that I had created for these three narrative sections, and I'm lazy like most of us. Didn't want to rewrite the book again, but because when you think about your omniscient narrators, who's the best omniscient narrator? The city. The city sees everything. The city knows what's going on within her borders. So at the time that I was writing this, I was reading Dan Shong's Ill Will and Jennifer Egan's A Visit from the Goon Squad, both of which kind of play with the way the narrative looks on the page. And I thought, well, what if Youngstown is kind of commenting on the events throughout? And so she does, and they're in these little like text boxes that are, I don't know if you can see it. So they're like in little text boxes that she comments on the action throughout, sometimes giving you backstory, sometimes just giving you a little bit more information, revealing something that a character may not reveal themselves. So yeah, definitely, she's definitely a woman of a certain age, who will talk your ear off if you give her half the chance.
All right. You've written 3 other novels, The Super Ladies, Throw Like a Woman, and A Body at Rest. Can you talk to us about, you mentioned a little bit earlier about strong female characters. Do you think is it deliberate, or just find your voice, always there, or what is it about strong female characters?
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if it's necessarily strong female characters as much as, women and girls doing unusual things. I guess maybe that makes them strong. Because I think most women are strong. I mean, at a certain point, I can't remember who once said, read the book that you want to write, or write the book that you want to read. I'm like, okay. So I kind of did that. I mean, with Throw Like a Woman, it was kind of my own baseball fantasy of like, gosh, if I could channel my anger, wouldn't it be cool if I could, channel my anger and be able to throw a baseball 90 miles an hour? Where would I be? And so I think each of my books kind of come from a wondering of, gee, what would it be like if, what would it be like if you turned into a fictional character? Watching all my friends go through menopause, going, gosh, wouldn't it be cool if those menopausal symptoms actually gave you superpowers? So I think the writing female leads that either have real or unnatural super strengths, it's just something, like I said, it's something that just kind of, that's how I end up telling the stories. I do like I often throw in a little bit of maybe magical realism. So in some cases that helps characters, some cases it doesn't. But it's something that I like to see in fiction, so I throw it into my books. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. All right. Who are your biggest inspirations as a writer? I mean, they could be authors or even just people in your life.
Let me see. So my 2 favorite authors of all time are Jane Austen and Kurt Vonnegut. I know they're kind of diametrically opposed, but I think that's why I like them. They're both very funny in different ways, and both were great purveyors of the social mores and the culture of their times, and managed to put that into their books. And so I admire that a lot. So, and at this point, I feel like half of what I read is inspiring, because even if I'm reading a book that I go, boy, this sucks, or I look at sentence structure and say, they could have made that sentence stronger by rewording it. So every time I'm reading, I'm trying to think of, if I'd written this, how would I have written it? Or boy, that's a really great sentence. Or boy, that's a really great something. I mean, current writers that I admire a lot. I mentioned earlier, Jennifer Egan. I love George Saunders, Karen Russell. Oh my gosh. So I think there is a very strong vein, hopefully, that I can find my own small little niche in this vein of writers who are writing about the fantastic, not in the vernacular sense of the word, but more in the magical realism, things that are not quite explained by science or reason sense of the word. So I think those are some of the current writers that I admire. And I guess I've started writing in that vein, whether or not I don't think I did it intentionally. It just kind of happened.
Very good. Okay. So the Heebie-Jeebie Girl was published last summer in the middle of a pandemic, which was probably not your plan.
No.
How was your experience of launching a book, since you have a few books under your belt before? I mean, how did promoting it go? That kind of thing.
It's weird. I still have like this big, huge box of bookmarks that I had printed in like February, because I had a bunch of events lined up and they all washed up. Some of them turned to virtual events like this. Some did not. My publisher chose to kind of release the Heebie-Jeebie Girl in 2 waves. So the ebook came out in April, and then the hardcover came out in June. So here's the hardcover, pretty. And an actual live steel mill, Youngstown. So when I did a virtual reading when the ebook came out, and I did it at Loganberry Books, just because that's a more interesting background than here. And we, Harriet Logan, who's the owner of Loganberry, was great to let me be in there. So she kind of did the introduction, and then she slid her chair away and I slid mine over to the computer, and we did the book talk, and we did it through Facebook Live, so people could leave comments and ask questions. So I had a third person there, my friend Maisha, who was like keeping track of the comments and the questions. And that worked really well. That was a lot of fun. And later on that summer, we did a socially distanced, in-person signing. Normally you would do like a book signing where you go and you give the book talk, and everybody gathers at the same time to hear the book talk, and then maybe you sign books and stuff and kibitz and talk to people afterwards. With this, I hung out at the bookstore for a few hours, and people came in whenever they felt like it. So we only had a few people in there at a time, signed books, chatted. It was really nice, very low key. It's kind of a different way, the pandemic way of looking at an in-person book event. And then I've done, I did like the Ohio Anna Book Festival, was on a panel for that. And everything's moved online. It's been weird and frustrating, because it's, talking via Zoom is just not the same as talking to people in person. And so I missed that. I think the book's doing okay, and people seem to like it. So it's a different way of, it's a different way of looking at things. So trying to find like that, like the socially distanced in-person reading or other things like that. The fact that people have been able to, I was part of a panel for Literary Cleveland for the Incubator, and the fact that so many organizations have been able to pivot to doing virtual events has been amazing. So I'm very fortunate to have been part of all those things, and we'll see what happens as people start getting vaccinated. We were talking about that earlier, that people are getting vaccinated. Doesn't mean that everything will go back to normal, whatever normal is, but hopefully maybe we can do some more in-person events, because there's nothing like holding the book in your hand and talking to people and being face to face.
I agree. We certainly miss that aspect of things here at the library.
Oh yeah.
So in all of your free time, everybody's kind of affected by the pandemic in different ways. Have you been able to continue to write? Is there anything we can look forward to in 2022?
Yeah, actually, I mean, for the first 6 months of the pandemic, I was unemployed. I lost my job right at the very beginning of the pandemic. And it was one of those things where like, you're like, oh, somebody's looking out for me, because I lost my job. And then I found out that I was one of the recipients of the Ohio Arts Council Individual Excellence Grant. So I'm like, oh, look, somebody's giving me money. Yay. But it was a really nice boost of saying, okay, someone, the Ohio Arts Council believes in my work. That's nice. So for the first 6 months of the pandemic, I was unemployed. So I got a lot of writing done. Walked my dogs a lot and got a lot of writing done. So my next book is tentatively titled Things You Should Know About America, and tentatively scheduled to come out in spring of 2022. And it's very different than Heebie-Jeebie Girl and other things that I've written. And it's kind of about, I don't know, allyship, and race and allyship. And so it's still, I'm still making tweaks, and I need to get the publisher the final draft soon, and we'll see what happens. So like I said, tentatively scheduled for spring of 2022.
Excellent. Well, Susan, I hope that we can tentatively schedule an in-person library program to promote that book. It would be wonderful.
Thank you. That'd be great.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Susan. I encourage everybody to come in and check out a copy of the Heebie-Jeebie Girl or any of other books. You can also purchase the Heebie-Jeebie Girl from your favorite local independent bookseller or wherever you like to buy your books. Thanks so much, Susan. Have a great day.
Thank you for having me. Have a great day. Bye.